Hello, everyone. I call the May 6, 2024 City Council regular meeting to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor David Ortega.
Present.
Vice Mayor Solange Whitehead.
Here.
Council members Tammy Caputi.
Here.
Tom Durham.
Here.
Barry Graham.
Here.
Betty Janik.
Here.
And Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
City Manager Jim Thompson.
Here.
City Attorney Sherry Scott.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. We have Sergeant Sean Ryan as well as Detective Dustin Patrick and firefighter Cody Taylor should anyone need assistance. Also, just want to point out the restrooms are up the ramp and through that opening to my left. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Tom Durham, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I want to draw our attention to the ongoing wars in foreign countries as they fight to protect their democracy and freedom. I also ask that we think of the safety of our military service personnel, so I'd ask that you join me in a moment of silent reflection for these war-torn countries. Thank you. Next, we have a sustainability award. Scottsdale reinstituted our sustainability program, recognition program, and I have a proclamation for a group known as Our City. We have several members here that are listening on to this. Whereas Scottsdale is committed to responsible stewardship of the natural and built environments, and whereas the city recently relaunched its Sustainable Scottsdale Award program to celebrate outstanding contributions to sustainability and environmental stewardship within the Scottsdale community, and whereas our city has been collecting food waste from Scottsdale residents and businesses for 10 years and has diverted millions of pounds of food waste from landfills to be used in local farming, and whereas they collect food waste from residents and businesses to produce compost on their own farm and offer local organic produce to Scottsdale doorsteps with curbside delivery, our city is working to double the number of residential customers in Scottsdale this year and has partnered with the city departments to create sustainable events. Therefore, I, David D. Ortega, the 12th Mayor of Scottsdale, do declare the 2024 Sustainable Scottsdale Awardee to be our city, and thank all the applicants to the program for their sustainable efforts. Let's give them a hand. Well, next we will have the city manager's report. Therefore, Jim Thompson will provide us some information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have a short video for you this evening.
Hi, I'm Public Affairs Specialist Stephanie Hirata with 5 fast things happening around the city you need to know. Starting us off at number 5, celebrate Indian Bend Wash with free community events. The Indian Bend Wash Flood Control Project transformed a serious flooding hazard into a world-renowned network of parks, lakes, paths, and golf courses traversing through the heart of Scottsdale. The Indian Bend Wash Greenbelt spans 11 miles and is considered one of the top urban green spaces in Arizona. Its creation demonstrates the city's commitment to environmental conservation and creating recreational opportunities for residents. Join the celebration to experience the history and beauty of the Indian Bend Wash through family-friendly events. Don't miss out on the Paws in the Park dog event at Chaparral Dog Park and an exciting dive-in movie at El Dorado Aquatic Center. Get all the details at scottsdaleaz.gov and search Indian Bend Wash events. Coming in at number 4, get ready, Scottsdale. This month, our Transportation and Streets Department is kicking off their yearly road shoulder maintenance cycle. Street operations crews maintain more than over 100 miles of road shoulders throughout the city. 8-man crews operate a variety of heavy equipment in the work area, including motor graders, front-end loaders, side and end dump trucks, kick brooms, water trucks, road rollers, and traffic control aero trucks. Their tasks include clearing overgrown vegetation from the sides of roads, improving driver visibility, and ensuring bicycle lanes are free from obstruction. This trimming also forms a natural fire break, a safe 12 feet from the road. They also backfill deteriorated and washed out shoulder edges, a common result of standard roadway wear and tear and storm damage. To ensure a smooth and safe surface for vehicles, crews diligently grade the shoulder slope. Transportation and Streets would like to remind everyone that safety is our top priority, both for our road users and our hardworking crews. We urge everyone to exercise caution when driving near construction zones and to adhere to posted directional signs. Next up at number 3, save the date. Scottsdale's annual community Juneteenth celebration is next month. Come and enjoy delicious food, uplifting music, family-friendly entertainment, and so much more. This free and vibrant event promises a day filled with indoor and outdoor activities from 2 to 7 p.m. on Saturday, June 15th at the Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts. Learn more at scottsdaleaz.gov and search Juneteenth. At number 2, have you heard the exciting news? Scottsdale is making several upgrades to McCormick-Stillman Railroad Park. The new features include an indoor train-themed play structure and splash pad, which will make the park even more popular during the hot summer months. Construction is expected to take about a year to complete. The splash pad, approved as part of the 2019 bond election, has been the most requested enhancement over the past several years, as identified during the park's master planning process. The indoor play structure is being purchased by the Scottsdale Railroad and Mechanical Society, the park's nonprofit partner. McCormick-Stillman Railroad Park is Scottsdale's signature park and generates approximately $2.5 million in revenue annually. Learn more at scottsdaleaz.gov and search Railroad Park improvements. Wrapping things up at number 1, a great big congratulations to the city's 2024 Sustainable Scottsdale Award winner, Our City. Our city has been collecting food waste from Scottsdale residents and businesses for more than a decade, diverting millions of pounds of food waste from landfills to be used in local farming. They collect food waste from residents and businesses to produce compost on their farm, which means they can grow produce without the use of chemicals or pesticides. In addition, they offer local organic produce to Scottsdale's doorsteps with their full circle curbside delivery. Mayor Ortega recognized Our City at the city's Earth Fest event at Cactus Park in April. Once again, congratulations and thank you for your sustainable efforts. And that's Scottsdale's Fast 5 for May. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. These presentations are amazing, and Stephanie Harada has moved on, so that was her last presentation to us. She's staying in the area. We've asked her to stay in contact, and auditions are underway for that position. So now, during tonight's meeting, the council may make a motion to recess into executive session to obtain legal advice on any applicable item on the agenda. If authorized by the council, the executive session will be held immediately and will not be open to the public. The public meeting will then resume following the executive session. Also, per our council rules of procedure, citizens attending city council meetings shall observe the same rules of order and decorum applicable to members of the council and city staff. Unauthorized remarks or demonstrations from the audience will not be tolerated and could result in removal from the meeting. It also helps us keep the meeting move smoothly. Next, we move on to public comment. Public comment is an opportunity that's reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and/or property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. Advocacy for or against a candidate or ballot measure during the council meeting is not allowed pursuant to state law and is therefore not deemed to be within the council's jurisdiction. No official council action can be taken on these items, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes to address the council. If you wish to speak on a non-agendized item, of course, you would have checked with the clerk, and at this point, you have 3 minutes. Please come forward and mention your name. I therefore open public comment, and I show Stephen Cesaris.
Hello, good evening, sir, council, staff, citizens. I'd like to make a very brief, positive comment and a simple message of thanks to the Scottsdale Police Department and to the Scottsdale Fire Department, our EMS, and our first responders. I recently had a conversation with a small business owner, a fellow citizen, and she inspired me to speak candidly and simply with a simple message of thanks. I speak for myself, she speaks for herself, but I'm sure we have a grateful citizenry here for our Scottsdale Police Department and Fire Department. I understand personally the long hours and risks from a similar profession. Working swing shifts, being first on the scene can be traumatizing. The last-minute texts that you receive, having fun with the rookies, and who's on deck for next hosting the barbecue in the gym competition. And my favorite, the first fist pounds at the end of shift or at the end of watch. So my message is simple. Thanks for what you do to keep us safe and make us actually safe. Thank you.
Thank you. That's, we would now close public comment. Moving on to the minutes. Next, we have approval of the minutes, and I request a motion to approve regular meeting and work-study session minutes of March 19th, 2029. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Thank you. That's unanimous. Next, we have consent agenda items 1 through 12. And there's been a request to move item 11. Item 11 to regular agenda, therefore that will be heard after the consent action is taken. That item 11 pertains to ordinance changes for short-term rentals. Is there any other discussion or request? Okay, seeing none, at this point I open public comment regarding any consent agenda items. Seeing none, therefore I close public comment. I'm open for a motion regarding the consent agenda items excluding 1 through 12, excluding number 11.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Okay, thank you. That was unanimous. Next, we will move on to the regular agenda items. We'll have a full presentation on item number 11, and we have also item number 13 on regular agenda. So coming forth is Assistant City Manager Brent Stockwell. Hello. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, my name's Brent Stockwell. I'm one of your Assistant City Managers, and tonight's presentation is actually going to be given to you by Will Brooks, one of our management associates to the City Manager. You may remember him from last November during the work study session where we presented these items. So Will, come up.
Good evening, Mayor Ortega and members of the City Council. My name is Will Brooks. I'm a management associate to the City Manager and have been working with our short-term rental team to present these ordinance amendments to you this evening. We received feedback from the City Council at the November 2023 work study session and have been working to finalize all the language. We continue to be careful to be compliant with state laws, and all ordinance changes are necessary to protect public health and safety. We also have considered enforceability as a key concern of these ordinance amendments. There are 3 proposed changes for the council to consider tonight. The first is to add promoters as a responsible party for causing nuisance parties or unlawful gatherings. The second is to prohibit minors from renting STRs. While the major online hosting platforms already have this language on their platforms, this ensures that our ordinance language is comprehensive. Lastly, the proposed language gives the police authority to remove non-residents from a property after a nuisance party is declared based on the preponderance of evidence and the officer has determined that the nuisance party or unlawful gathering is a threat to the public peace, health, safety, or general welfare. After a nuisance party is declared, police can issue a written notice and ask all non-residents to leave the property for a period of 8 hours. In addition, we also asked for public feedback in March. We received 2,175 responses through Polco, and 92% strongly agree that we are moving in the right direction with these ordinance changes. In addition, we looked at the resource impacts. There are very minimal staffing and workload impacts, and also there are no current budget impacts with passing these ordinance amendments. With all this considered, staff recommend adoption of these proposed amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I would open public comment, and that's the purpose for people to come forward and speak on this posted item. Seeing none, therefore I will close public comment. We will now go to council comments. I have Councilwoman Janik, Councilmember Durham, and then Vice Mayor Whitehead. Councilwoman Janik.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank council and staff for doing all they can to work with the community to make sure that we have appropriate behavior at our short-term rentals, and it is within the confines of the law. So it has taken several months. I believe you said, Will, thank you for your presentation that we started in November. It is not easy to change or to adjust all the ordinance and guidelines. And I have to give a big shout out to Brent Stockwell, because he has undertaken this massive task, and he has been at it for quite some time. Over 3 years, I believe. So thank you for all you've done. And I want the citizens to know that we are listening to them. I routinely get complaints about short-term rental behavior. I think this is a very, very big step in the right direction to make sure that everything is appropriate when we have short-term rentals in our community, knowing that we are one of the top in the country for the number of short-term rentals for our population. So again, this is a big step. It is more work than most people would think, and I want to thank everybody for putting that time and effort in. And with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 4626, amending Scottsdale Revised Code, Chapter 18, Public Nuisance and Property Maintenance, Article 8, by amending Section 18-122, Definitions, amending Section 18-131, unlawful for a promoter to advertise, permit, or organize a nuisance party or unlawful gathering, unlawful for a promoter to advertise a special event at a residence within the city without having first obtained a special event permit, civil penalties, adding Section 18-132, Scottsdale Police Officer Authority to order persons to leave a nuisance party or unruly gathering, notice and penalty for failure to leave or entry after notice, and adding Section 18-133, other remedies relating to nuisance parties and unlawful gatherings. And number 2, adopt ordinance number 4627, amending Scottsdale Revised Code, Chapter 18, Public Nuisance and Property Maintenance, Article 9, by adding Section 18-178, rental of vacation rentals and short-term rentals by juveniles is prohibited penalty. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Next, I see Councilmember Durham, and then Vice Mayor can speak to her second.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Janik that these are very good revisions to the ordinance, which will give our police more power to regulate these types of problems. I agree we get probably more email about this than almost any other subject. I have one question about it. It said in the section 18-132, it said this section gives Scottsdale Police authority to ask non-residents to leave. And does that mean, the term non-residents, does that mean non-residents of the short-term rental?
Correct.
Does that need to be clarified? Because it seems a little confused. We normally use the term resident as a person who lives in Scottsdale.
Thank you, Mayor Ortega, members of the City Council, Councilmember Durham. This would apply to all residential properties, not just as short-term rentals. So that is probably why that language is there.
It just seems there is a little ambiguity there. I think I understand what the intent was, certainly.
Let me call on City Attorney Santiago.
Mayor and members of the City Council, I don't think there is ambiguity. The the nuisance party ordinance is not limited to short-term vacation rentals. It applies to all occupancies, long-term, short-term, and owner-occupied. So the term basically non-residents means people that are not residing there. So under the ordinance, the way it works, if the police officer finds by a preponderance of the evidence that there's a nuisance party or unlawful gathering and it's a threat to the general welfare, peace, quiet, etc., he or she can declare a nuisance party, post it with the door, and then order people that are not living there, non-residents, to leave. They don't have the authority to order people that are actually living there.
Right.
Technically, the people that, and there's a presumption in the ordinance if you look further, more than 6 people are presumed not to be residents because, as you know, under our zoning code, we define a single family to be 6 adults and their dependent children. So I don't believe there's ambiguity. It applies to all occupancies, and I think that it can be enforced.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor Whitehead, Councilmember Graham afterwards.
Thank you, Mayor, and I agree with my colleagues, so I want to thank Assistant City Manager Brent Stockwell, also very importantly the legal team under Deputy City Attorney Luis Santiago. And I do have a question, I have a comment, because
our ordinances, which we keep tweaking, and we are leading in the state on how to best control what was pretty much an unregulated industry and make it so it's less disruptive and still serves its purpose. So this is yet another attempt by the city of Scottsdale to lead the charge in a way that we allow for good actors, but we rein in some of the bad actors. And I realize that these particular tweaks are for all residences, not just short-term rental residences, but still, that's where we seem to be having the problem. But I do want to point out that on the enforcement side, we have really stepped up as well, and I think this will give us more opportunities for enforcement. One of the ways that we've helped enforce our rules is, and perhaps the Deputy City Attorney can speak to this, is how we collect the fines for non-compliance. Can you speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. One of the programs that we've started as a pilot program is to start for those owners of short-term vacation rentals that do not pay their fines. We're starting to lien their properties in order to gain compliance. And we're hoping that will be an added tool. That's only when they default and do not pay their fines, and it's related to the owners.
So again, you know, we have our police unit dedicated to short-term rentals, and we have staff being very creative to find ways to make it easy for our short-term rental operators to comply, and if nothing else, to incentivize them to do so. So thank you. I'm very supportive of these changes. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, good presentation. I wish we could go further. I'm happy what we're doing tonight, and I support these changes. Just a few small questions. The promoters, it just says that, you know, somebody that's associated with promoting a party. I mean, what if people are, you know, texting? I mean, what if people are texting and promoting a party after they got an invite or something? Don't you become a promoter then at that point?
Thank you, Mayor Ortega, members of the City Council. Councilmember Graham, I'm going to refer to Deputy City Attorney Luis Santea for definitions of the promoter.
Okay.
Mayor and members of the council.
I guess my question, did you struggle with this definition? Was this difficult? Because it seems like promoter could be...
No, sir. And it's defined as a person who contracts for or arranges with an owner or other responsible person to provide any activity or event with or without compensation, who's responsible or directly organizes the presentation of the activities or events. I don't believe that the example you gave of someone texting and saying, hey, there's a party at First and Main would apply. There are also exemptions in the definition to cover political events and charitable events. Being a promoter in itself is not illegal in any shape and form.
Right.
It's just adding to the types of people that can be held responsible if there's an unlawful gathering or a nuisance party. There's also a prohibition for promoters to advertise something that would require a special event permit. So no ordinance is perfect. If for some reason down the road we need to tweak it, we certainly will bring it back to this council. But in my legal opinion, I think we're on solid grounds.
And then, so if the promoter that they've contracted with has nothing to do with the party, they're not at the party, they were just used, what kind of enforcement steps do you contemplate the city could pursue?
So it's really going to depend on the totality of the circumstances. So if, depending on, and there's in the ordinance, there's a provision that if prima facie evidence of if you are advertising, that can help hold you responsible. So it's going to depend. We'd have to look on a case-by-case basis. So it's possible maybe a promoter won't be held responsible for a particular event, but then again, they may very well be based on the facts.
So it's kind of a warning shot, though, for third parties. You may farm out your promoting to some, event promotion entity, and they need to be aware that in Scottsdale, there could be consequences for that.
I think, Councilman, that's a fair assessment.
Okay. And then prohibiting minors from renting STRs, so that's 18, it's below the age of 18. Did we consider disallowing that between 18 to 21?
No, and here's the reason. Juveniles, people under 18, are prohibited from entering contracts anyway. So technically, it was unlawful for someone that's under 18 to rent an STR. We didn't have any mechanism to enforce it. In terms of people between 18 and 21, I don't think we'd have the authority to do that because of constitutional provisions about the right to contract.
The concern I've heard is that 18 to 21, you could rent it, and that's where underage drinking can occur. Wasn't an option when any of us were kids. So, and you see this kind of, I see it in my own neighborhood. I mean, I'm the only one up here that lives in 5-1, so I'm surrounded by these. And I'm constantly, you should talk to my wife, I'm complaining to her about STRs, noisy STRs all the time.
And Councilmember Graham and members of the council and mayor, I understand the problem. We just don't think we would have the authority to ban people between 18 and 20. Keep in mind that if you had a party where underage drinking is going on, then by definition that's an unlawful gathering, and the police would have the ability to shut that party down and take enforcement action.
And then my last question is for the police authority to remove non-residents. So the police happen upon a house that's a nuisance party, and so there's a preponderance of evidence at that point. Do they ask them to leave, or is it they shall leave?
It would be an order to leave.
It would be an order. Okay. Very good. Well, appreciate all the work that staff has done in this. Kind of wish we could go further. I will say, as an aside, that some of the safeguards we're putting in place as a city for the registrations, just this weekend, I had an STR on my street that was putting bags of trash in the street before the trash, and I just went on the website, got the number to that STR registered, called them, zipped on over because they don't want a report called on them. So some of these mechanisms and tools that we're putting in place are working. It's not perfect, like you said, Luis, but I'm in support and I'm pleased about this. So thank you for answering those questions. Will, thank you for your presentation. And Brent Stockwell, thank you for the work we know you've done on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. I have some comments, and then we have Councilwoman Littlefield. So it's been a struggle because short-term rentals disrupted our neighborhoods, our pathways. Parking is a problem, continues to be a problem. And this is the next step that we can take. However, I think we should be aware that as we speak, the Arizona legislature is considering two bills, one in House Bill 2720 and the other one is Senate bill, which would double the number of short-term rentals in Scottsdale. It has to do with accessory dwelling unit, and their bill, as it's coming forward, I believe Wednesday, would allow an accessory building, basically a second house on the property, to be marketed as a short-term rental. So we already have over 4,000 of these, and that would permit them, wrongly, in my opinion, to have a second advertisement for a second dwelling unit, and that would really be a buster for our neighborhoods. It's intolerable that they're actually moving forward with that. Just as an example, Some cities have different allowances. City of Phoenix allows accessory dwelling units. They took action to make it legal and so forth in the City of Phoenix, but they also stipulated that those accessory dwelling units would not be short-term rentals. And here the legislature is pounding on Phoenix as well as us by saying, oh no, they can be overnighters, they can be weekenders, and they could be advertised as such as a separate unit. That means there could be two different occupants at those same property, which in Scottsdale's case, who knows, it would be a question of an enforcement at door number 1 or door number 2 or whoever's fighting over the pool that night. So it's definitely destructive. It's an ill-tempered piece of legislation that's coming forward, and it's really wrong for the entire valley. They've said, well, if your city's over 75,000, it applies to you and not to others. That's still not workable for us. So it's a very dangerous situation that the legislature is proposing. Their bill also says that the accessory building would not be required to have fire sprinklers. Okay, now that's our code here in Scottsdale, so they're trying to preempt us even on a safety issue. So you've got that combined with common space and so forth, and we're trying to do our best to make sure that we can get the perpetrators when there might be a promoter on Unit A and a different promoter on Unit B, or cross-mixing and all that hassle. That's totally irresponsible on the legislator agenda, and our council stands against that, but it is pending. So just to give you an idea how destructive that could be, it would literally double the number of STRs. Next, and so of course I'm in support of this measure, and I'll move on to Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to thank both of you for the work you've done and for your entire department for the good things that you have put together over the past couple of years regarding STRs. It's been phenomenal, but I'm also, your work isn't done yet, according to what the mayor has just said. It's just beginning, so you got a whole nother set of them coming up the pike, so congratulations and good luck. Wait to hear what you have to say on all of those things, because the mayor is correct. It's coming through the legislature. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I would expect the governor would veto something like that, but we'll find out. At this point, I see no other requests to speak, so please record your vote. Okay, we are unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we're moving on to item number 13. Item number 13 pertains to a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant. That's the CDBG program fiscal year 2024-25 annual action plan and the allocation of CDB and home investment partnership funds. Hello, Mary Witkowski, the Community Assistant Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight I come before you to talk a little bit about our annual action plan. So I thought I'd kind of take a step back, as every year I've come before you for the last several years is just kind of dive right into the numbers. Instead, I thought we'd take a step back and talk a little bit about what the annual action plan is and how we got to where we got. So an annual action plan helps Scottsdale meet the goals that are currently outlined in our consolidated action plan. Our top 3 goals identified by that plan are affordable housing, public facilities and infrastructure, and public services. Fiscal year 24-25 annual action plan is the 5th year of our consolidated action plan. It is funded by the annual allocation of our Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership funds. So what is Community Development Block Grant? These funds help to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities through 3 national objectives. The 3 national objectives are listed up on the board, and the number one that the City of Scottsdale utilizes is benefits to our low and moderate income persons. So what can we use our funding for? We can use it for a number of activities. We can use it for public services, which we'll talk to you about tonight with our nonprofit funding, our housing rehabilitation programs, acquisition of real property, economic development activities, planning and administration, and then improvements to public facilities. As you see on the slide, this is actually Apache Park, which was recently renovated this year with CDBG funds. Home Investment Partnership Program is designated specifically to create affordable housing for low-income households. Some things that we can use our Home Investment Partnership Program funds for are acquisition and rehabilitation of property, grants, direct loans, loan guarantees, rental assistance, also known as tenant-based rental assistance, and security deposits. So what is required of our office through our annual action plan process? We are required to hold 2 public hearings. We had a public hearing you'll see on the timeline next. We're also required to do a 30-day public comment period, which actually closes today, and we must draft out those lists of proposed activities in a plan. This is our timeline. So we began actually the planning phase in November in our office. We had our first public hearing. One of the public hearings has to start prior to the draft of the annual action plan. So we did garner public input through our Human Services Commission. Then we worked through our nonprofit funding program, and then we stand before you tonight. We have our public comment period on our draft plan closes. All programs will take effect as of July 1st of 2025, pending the final allocation from HUD. So how do we get our allocation from HUD? Housing and Urban Development determines the amount of each of our annual funding by a statutory formula using these several measures listed on the board. On average, the City of Scottsdale receives about $1.1 million. How do we get our home allocation? The City of Scottsdale is currently a member of the Maricopa County Home Consortium, and they determine the funding based on the following. They take all of the total consortium members, which includes, and I'm going to list a few, not all of them, the City of Glendale, Goodyear, Peoria, Surprise, Tempe, Gilbert, and Chandler are a few of them. They add everyone's CDBG allocation up to total and then divide it by the number of consortium members. And so our actual percentage of total funding is about 8%. Program income. Our program income is gross income generated directly from CDBG funded activities. We have one CDBG funded activity here in the City of Scottsdale, and that is the Paiute Neighborhood Center. We receive rental income through buildings 4 and 5, and that funding is then returned to the city CDBG line of credit and expended on eligible activities such as administration and staff. We also have revolving loan program income or revolving loan income. This is generated income, but the home is handled much differently than the program income. We must establish a revolving loan, and it has to go back into the original programs that it was received from. So our specific one is we have a green housing rehabilitation program. When an applicant is approved, they receive a loan from our office as opposed to a grant. After we've completed it, the city does put a lien on their property. If they continue residing in the home after 3 years of residing in that home, we forgive 50% of the loan. And should they choose to sell it after that period, the lien, that 50% is then paid back to the city. And that is how we generate revolving income. Our second revolving loan belongs to Bellevue Properties. This is the first time we're recognizing this. So as we gain rental income, a percentage of that funding comes back into Bellevue Properties for maintenance and ongoing repairs. So tonight I come before you with regards to fiscal year 2025. You can see that we're receiving about $1.1 million. And again, this is a tentative number. We have not officially received our allocation from HUD yet at this point. These numbers are subject to change. We're estimating approximately $56,000 in program income. This is specifically from the Paiute Neighborhood Center. And then we're reprogramming funds of approximately $379,000 with a total funding available about approximately $1.5. You'll see the award recommendations below, leaving us a balance of $1,962 that is currently unallocated that we'll bring before you in fiscal year 25-26. So our current recommendations for funding through our draft plan is $307,000 directly to public services where they'll serve victims of domestic violence, seniors, youth, mental health, disabled, and homeless. We also have our non-public services, which is our housing rehabilitation programs at $857,000, and then our non-public service facility improvements at $200,000, and our program administration at $232,000. So home investment partnership, this year we're receiving an estimated $355,614, proposing to utilize it for continued tenant-based rental assistance for our elderly population, age 62 and older, who are below 30% or below the area median income and more than 50% cost burdened. Our current program for tenant-based rental assistance did roll out on November 6th of 2023. We currently have 6 seniors who are stably housed after being displaced. We have 1 pending eligibility, and we are looking for 8 additional applicants to be able to meet their needs. A formal IGA with regards to this $355,000 will be coming to council in the fall. So as part of our requirements, we are required to receive comments from the public, and this year we utilize Speak Up Scottsdale. So during the initial planning phase, we did a poll and a discussion questionnaire on Speak Up Scottsdale on proposed activities, which was conducted February 8th to March 9th. And then once we drafted the actual plan, we posted that on Speak Up Scottsdale as well and received comments from April 5th to today. The top priorities or the top themes from both of those avenues came back as seeking funding to our nonprofit agencies, helping qualified homeowners with emergency repairs, rental housing acquisition for low moderate income families, and tenant-based rental assistance. These were the standard themes across the board. So tonight's action request is to adopt Resolution 13099. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. At this point, I will open public comment. I see there's one request to speak. Neil Scher, please come forward.
Honorable Mayor and Council, I'm Neil Scher, longtime Scottsdale resident and a member of the Human Services Commission, and I'm here tonight to fully support the resolution before you. I'd like to begin by thanking the folks that were involved in bringing this forward this evening, and that includes the staff, Mary and Chad Booker in particular, and others who worked on this at the staff level, and then my colleagues on the Human Services Commission who really worked extensively to bring this item forward. These funds, totaling nearly $2 million, will do much good to help low and moderate income residents address a number of challenges. And Mary spoke to those. I want to reiterate some of them because I think they're really important to highlight. Helping elderly and disabled residents with rental assistance to keep them in their homes. Providing home modifications for disabled residents and home improvements such as roof replacements and air conditioners in the summer heat. I just did sort of a back of the envelope calculation, and my estimate is over the years we've helped over 2,000 homeowners with these types of home improvements. So we have not only helped individuals, we've enhanced the housing stock in sections of Scottsdale that qualify for these funds. We are helping by securing emergency and transitional housing for residents who don't have shelter. We are providing crisis counseling and case management for victims of abuse and trauma. And the additional caseworker at the senior center will help to address the growing number of seniors who struggle with loneliness and isolation. As you know, all of this is federal funding. And for years, the City of Scottsdale has been extremely successful by acquiring federal funds, such as the block grant funds, the home funds, and other grants to do wonderful things in our community. It's become increasingly difficult for staff to secure grants to support basic human services, as was evidenced when we lost out on 2 grants, one from the state and one from the county most recently. It may not be a popular sentiment, but the city is approaching a time when more general fund dollars may need to be invested in order to sustain basic human services for Scottsdale seniors and other residents who are experiencing life-changing hardships. I wanted to bring this funding concern forward to your attention because I know you care about human services and you recognize that our outstanding services programs and facilities routinely enhance the quality of life for our residents. And because how a community helps those less fortunate is one of the measures of the greatness of a community. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we will close public comment. Again, this is a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant. At this point, I will move on to any questions. Vice Mayor Whitehead and then Councilmember Graham.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor, for getting back up to the podium. I just want to comment that actually our public speaker, Mr. Shearer, covered many of these important points. We take grants, which are our tax dollars that flow through the federal government and back to our community, and what a difference we're making here in this community. I'm very impressed that the priorities that we have shown up here on the dais are aligned with the public feedback we got on the priorities. We definitely have a compassionate community, but we all know that we have to address these issues. If we don't want homelessness, then we do have to make sure to catch those, especially what we're seeing in the senior community, catch them before they fall into it, because it's helpful. On the rental assistance program, you mentioned there's 6 seniors already on that program, 1 pending, and there's funding for just 8 additional.
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, at this point we're taking an additional, depending on what the annual cost per person. We may be able to take on additional ones past that 8, but on average we're spending between $15,000 to $18,000 a year per person.
Okay, so 15,000 a year?
15,000 to 18,000 per person.
Okay.
For the rental subsidy, the elderly are still paying 30%. We're paying 70%.
Okay, that's good to know. And we're doing this rental assistance because these landlords are not accepting the vouchers. That's a separate program?
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, they actually are accepting the vouchers. These are seniors who were just priced out of their current homes and are now being displaced due to the increasing costs of rent.
Okay, so the voucher's paying probably that 30%, or no, because we're paying 70%.
We pay 70%, and then the resident pays 30%.
30%, okay.
The tenant-based rental assistance program operates directly in alignment with the Housing Choice Voucher.
Okay.
They just have different terminologies, but it is the same exact program.
Okay, but the funding is different.
Funding is different, but we use the same program rules.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, that's great. And just out of curiosity, how would someone apply to be part of this? Because obviously I know people who might be interested.
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, all referrals must go through Granite Reef or via Linda Senior Center. We have a letter of agreement with the senior centers to accept all referrals and submit the applications. Without a referral from a social worker at one of those centers, you're not eligible. So it is mandatory, and the senior resident who receives the assistant is required to have quarterly case management meetings as a part of the program eligibility.
Okay, great. Another question, and I don't want to blindside you, I meant to email you ahead of time, but we had a presentation from the county about the state program that retrofits houses to reduce utility bills. Do you know, and that state funding flows through the county to us, and that helps lower utility bills, and also, as Mr. Shearer said, upgrades the housing stock. Do you have any information if we've been able to tap that? If you don't, I will follow up with you afterwards.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in terms of the utility assistance, that would filter through Vista del Camino and outside of my purview.
Okay.
With regards to the retrofit, when we can't do certain programs, we do make referrals directly to the county, or actually through the Department of Housing, because the funding goes through the housing,
Okay.
and then they have a contract with, oh gosh, I cannot think what it's called right now.
That's
I
right.
know it's called SAIL,
Okay.
but I don't remember what the acronym stands for, so I'd be happy to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you, and
Okay.
thank you again. I'm obviously very supportive of this. In fact, I'll just, while I have this floor, I'll motion, let's see if I can get back to it. I'll let the others speak. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to make the motion? Please do.
Here we go. A motion to adopt Resolution 13099 to approve the fiscal year 24-25 annual action plan.
Second.
Second.
Okay, next we have Councilmember Graham, and then Councilmember Durham can speak to a second, and then we have Councilwoman Janik.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mary, for your presentation. The Home Investment Partnership Program, you said there's 6 participants right now?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, correct.
Where are they from? Are they from Scottsdale?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, they are required to be Scottsdale residents in order to be assisted.
Very good. And so do we cut a check to them and they pay the landlord, or do we cut a check to the landlord directly?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we pay the landlord directly.
The Green Assistance Program, is that, do you guys more focus on power conservation or water conservation? If I'm understanding that correctly. Like, I was just curious, a couple projects, because I know we've spent some money on that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm actually going to defer to Chad Booker, who oversees that program in the audience, to come up and talk about that.
Do you think he's willing?
He's willing.
Mayor, members of the council, the Green Rehab Program focuses on energy conservation through multiple things. Energy efficient air conditioners. We do a home performance evaluation on every single home, which involves checking air ducts, insulation, breathability of the home, how tight is the house, what type of windows. And through that evaluation, we write a scope of work.
Okay, so I'm hearing power conservation.
Energy conservation, power conservation, and also we look at building code violations
Very
as
good.
well.
How many participants did you help? I guess, not to put you on the spot, but like, we're finishing fiscal 24. How many projects have you done this year?
Mayor, members of the council, we have completed 2 projects this fiscal year.
Okay, and so there was like duct work or a new air conditioner?
Full rehab, so that's anything throughout the house. So we can do flooring, bathrooms, carpet, but the intent is to get the home energy certified with a green building program that we have here at City of Scottsdale.
Very good. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
And I just had one more question about reprogramming. I don't know if that's Chad's domain. Okay, Mary, that's you, right? Can you, that's not really like a word we use in everyday conversation. Can you sort of interpret that so we can understand that?
Mayor Ortega, members of the commission, reprogram funds are unspent funds from the prior year's allocation to be reprogrammed to eligible CDBG activities.
And so I guess what I hear when you say that is that we received money, but we didn't spend it last year. So is that because of a lack of applicants, or was it just a lack of staff? We had plenty of applicants, or maybe we chose to encumber it to certain programs that weren't as used as we thought they might be?
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, we did award all of the program funding last year. However, some nonprofits that we give funding to don't necessarily spend all of it because we do hold them accountable for every cent spent as we report back to the federal government, or projects had a change and we needed to reallocate it for a future purpose.
So when you give money to these, forward the money to the nonprofits, is that kind of like legally, is that kind of like a donor restriction?
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, they enter into a grant subrecipient agreement with the city of Scottsdale.
Okay. And that reprogramming, that's kind of a year-to-year thing. That's pretty common from a year-to-year basis. Is that correct?
Mayor Ortega, members of the commission, it can be common, or it has been common over the past 3 years since we've come before you, since I've been here.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Chad, for coming up. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, I will now go to Councilman Durham, who made the second, and then Councilwoman Janik. Did you have any comment on it?
I didn't put in, but I will say a few words. All of this money obviously comes with strings attached, and the strings are we've got to use this money to help people, and that's what we're doing with it. And so I think this proves once again, there's nothing wrong with us taking money with strings attached from the state or from the federal government when we use it for these purposes. And I also thought it was interesting that the way we've used these funds are very much aligned with community support and community input. There are certain people who can't tell the difference between Scottsdale and San Francisco. I won't mention their names, but I think this shows that we do these things the Scottsdale way. As you've explained tonight, there's a lot of services that go along with this. These are the people being housed in these projects are not illegal immigrants. They're not drug addicts. They're not alcoholics. Many of them are elderly who've been priced out of their homes. And that's the reality of the homeless situation, or at least a significant part of it in Scottsdale. So we're using this money for good, for practical purposes. It's being run well, and it's being run with good oversight. So it's all of this is a great program, and we should all be proud of it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Janik, and then myself.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mary. Very nice presentation. Neil mentioned that in the future we may have to tap into the general fund to meet some of the demands. Is this because the demands are going up or that the money flowing to us is going down? And could you talk about that just briefly?
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, I can answer it briefly, and then I think I do need to defer it to the Human Services Director, but the funding coming in is going down.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so my comments are, first of all, thank you to the Human Services Commission. All of these line items have been vetted. All of the programs have been, are conforming. And there are two attachments. Basically, our action tonight is to forward on the application to HUD. And it is in good form. It's been vetted by, in detail by the commission, and it includes the nonprofit, I'll call them partners, people that the distributed funds go forward. We are performance driven. Several of these include Homeward Bound, Family Promise of Greater Phoenix, of course, the Ability 360, New Leaf, and Chrysalis Shelter. So these end up being as follow-up contracts for performance, so there's no giveaway. They're providing performance according to their contract, and we're monitoring that. So it's a very beneficial relationship conducted with a very high accountability. I see Councilwoman Caputi, and I think we're near a vote on this. Go ahead.
Just really quick, Mr. Shearer made the comment about having helped thousands of people over the years, and I just want to reiterate that, you know, a lot of these topics seem very trendy, but this is what we do in Scottsdale. We take care of the people who are vulnerable. We've been doing it for many years, and we don't do anything just sort of, you know, on a whim, right? I actually wrote down in my notes, consolidated action plan. We have plans for everything. We have a general plan, and then we have all the sub-plans underneath it, and we have very specific goals up here as a council. And as we roll out our action plans, it matches our goals and what the community wants us to do. And so, again, this to me is just kind of a no-brainer, right? It matches our goals, it matches what our community is looking for us, and it shouldn't be the least bit controversial. This, again, this is the good stuff we do here in Scottsdale. This is what makes us an amazing city, so very happy to support this program. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Thank you. We are unanimous. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Public comment is a second opportunity for citizens of Scottsdale, business owners or property owners to come forward. I'm told there are no requests for the second opportunity for public comment. Therefore, I will close public comment. Moving on to citizen petition. As per our charter, citizens may present a petition to the clerk's office, and I'm told there is no request for a citizen's petition. Therefore, that matter is closed. We are next coming to the mayor and council items. There were two requests. The first one, of course, came to request to agendize the review of the zoning ordinance's minor development application approval and appeal process at future council work study session. This agenda was amended on April 30th to note the removal of this item at the request of Councilwoman Janik. So, you know, it did come forward for today, but it's been removed. So, accordingly, I'm noting that, and item number 15 is gone. Finally, we will turn to the nominating portion of the meeting regarding boards, commissions, and task force nominations. I will turn the meeting over to Vice Mayor Whitehead, who will be chairing this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, the City Council will be nominating Scottsdale residents interested in serving on a citizen advisory boards, commissions, and committees. The Scottsdale City Council is responsible for establishing city policies and enacting laws in support of those policies. The council relies on volunteer citizen-based boards and commissions to research issues and make recommendations in support of the council's mission and goals. The information and recommendations provided by council-appointed advisory boards is a valuable tool in helping council members in their deliberations. Appointments for these positions will be made at a special city council meeting on May 14th. As we begin our process this evening, I'd like to remind my colleagues that an applicant only needs to receive one nomination in order to advance to interview before the council. When I call on you, if your chosen applicant or applicants have already been nominated by a council member, please state no additional and we'll move on in the process. Thank you, and let's get started. First up is the Board of Adjustment, and there's two openings. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body that hears variance request appeals of the zoning administrator's interpretation decisions and decides on administrative decisions or zoning requirements which create unnecessary hardships in the development of property because of exceptional or extraordinary conditions. The terms for Michael Gonzalez and Ryan Wagner expire in May. Michael Gonzalez is ineligible for reappointment. Ryan Wagner is eligible, however, he did not submit an application. There are 2 vacancies and 4 applicants. The applicants are Carlos Ganshoff, Paul Gary, Randy Griffin, and Jay Leopold. We'll start with Councilwoman Caputi.
Carlos Ganchoff and Randy Griffin.
Councilwoman Janik.
Paul Gary, no additional.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
No additional.
Mayor Ortega.
No additional.
No additional. Councilman Durham.
No additional.
Councilman Graham.
Mr. Leopold.
The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee has one opening. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee receives reports on the city's progress in implementing the bond program, reviews any proposed project changes to the program, and provides comments to the City Council with respect to the bond program as the committee deems appropriate. Janice Eng resigned from the committee in February. There is one vacancy and 5 applicants. The applicants are April Holland, Daryl Comescu, Britta McKee, Robert Simmons, and Tammy Smith. And we'll start with Councilwoman Janik.
Daryl Kometsu.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
April Holland, Britta McKee.
There's only one opening.
Oh, I'm sorry. April Holland.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Ortega.
No additional.
No additional. Councilman Durham.
Robert Simmons.
Councilman Graham.
Ms. Smith.
And Councilwoman Caputi.
No additional.
Environmental Advisory Commission. The Environmental Advisory Commission provides guidance on the prioritization of future environmental activities and recommends environmental policies to the City Council. Special qualifications as specified in the Scottsdale City Code. The membership of the board shall reflect both scientific and non-scientific interests. Natalie Chrisman-Lazar's term expires in May and is ineligible for reappointment. There is one vacancy and 4 applicants. The applicants are Scott Newell, Nathan Nutter, Alexandra Sellers, and Judah Waxelbaum. And we'll start with Councilwoman Littlefield.
Scott Newell.
Mayor, one opening. Mayor Ortega.
No additional.
Nathan Nutter, Councilman Durham,
Judah Waxelbaum.
Councilman Graham.
No additional, and I like the pace you're going. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Councilwoman Caputi.
Alexandra Sellers.
And Councilwoman Janik.
No additional.
All right, Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission oversees the development and management of Scottsdale's Historic Preservation Program. Special qualifications as outlined in the Scottsdale City Code. Each member shall have demonstrated special interest, knowledge, or experience in at least one of the following: building construction, history, architectural history, real estate, historic preservation, law, or other historic preservation-related fields. Linda Davis's term expires in May and is ineligible for reappointment. There is one vacancy, and the applicants are Kat DeJorvik, I definitely messed that up, Mark Estes, and Brandon Fadden. Mayor, let's start with you.
Mark Estes.
No additional. Councilman Durham.
Kat Jordovich.
Good job. Councilman Graham.
Mr. Fadden.
Okay, onward. Human Relations Commission. The Human Relations Commission advocates and promotes all dimensions of diversity. The commission acts as an advisory body to the mayor, city council, and staff to make recommendations on ways to encourage mutual respect and understanding among people, to discourage prejudice and discrimination, and to work towards cultural awareness and unity. James Eneman and Matthew Keene resigned from the commission in February. Robin Reed passed away unexpectedly earlier this year, resulting in a 3rd vacancy. There are 3 vacancies and 7 applicants. The applicants are Veronica Aguilar, Mohammed Babur, Chris Kano, DeMarco Carson, Jeannie McKenna, James Somerville, and Sarah Yaron. I'm going to begin with me, and there's 3. I'm going to nominate Veronica Aguilar, Sarah Yaron, and Chris Kano. Councilman Durham.
Mohammed Babar, and DeMarco Quezon.
Okay, so do
No,
we have?
No additional, but if I can just say prayers for Mr. Reed and his family, and
Yes.
and that was a touching tribute that the mayor gave to Mr. Reed and his family.
Yeah, thank you.
No
Thank you.
no additional.
Okay, Councilwoman Janik.
Jeannie McKenna.
And I think we got everybody. Did we? Or we missed one more? Okay, Councilwoman
James
Littlefield.
Somerville?
Ooh, Council-
James Somerville?
Okay, James, okay.
We'll get him on.
Okay, no additional.
Okay, Human Services Advisory Commission. The Human Services Advisory Commission provides advisory recommendations to staff and the City Council on human services priorities and programs and funding allocations for Scottsdale Cares, Community Development Block Grants, Home, Human Services, Emergency, and General Funds. Roger Lurie's term expires in May. He is eligible for reappointment, and he has submitted his application. There is one applicant and there's one vacancy and 3 applicants, and the applicants are Lee Cooley, Roger Lurie, and Ralph Da Costa Nunez. And we'll start with Councilman Durham.
Roger Lurie.
Councilman Graham.
Mr. DaCosta Nunez.
And Councilwoman Caputi.
Lee Cooley.
Okay. Oh, okay, this is a big one. The library board. Yeah, we are, and we can nominate all of them. All right, the library board advises the city council on general policy relating to the programs, services, and future development of the Scottsdale Public Libraries. Janet Smeg, oh my gosh, today's names are not doing me well. Smegiski is her term expires and she is ineligible for reappointment. So thank you, Janet, for your service. There is 1 vacancy and 21 applicants. And those applicants are Dawn Abel, Sue Bolduc, Susanna Gutierrez Colby, Carrie Cox, Lula Dye, Tiffany Ellington, Jennifer Fabiani, Cassidy Fernanding, Marcy Kostawa, Kathy Lane, Linda LeBlanc, Don McCormick, Vernon Naranja, Rosalind O'Connell, Dana Rakanek, Martha Rockwell, Janice Shimakubo, Alice Stombaugh, Grace Stonebrez, John Wannett, and Kimberly Winter. Okay, we're going to start with Councilman Graham, and you have 1 opening there.
Yeah, I don't think we can get them all, actually. I'll go with Ms. Cox.
Thank you. Councilwoman Caputi.
Janice Shimakubo.
Councilwoman Janik.
Susanna Colby.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Dawn Abel.
Mayor Ortega.
Kathy Lane.
Just a second, you're going a little too fast right now.
Okay, let's go back to Councilwoman Janik. Is that where we're at?
Councilwoman Janik, you had Ms. Colby,
Correct.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Dawn Abel.
Thank you. And Mayor?
Kathy Lane.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and nominate, where did you go? Rosalind O'Connell. Councilman Durham.
No additional.
Okay, thank you. The Lost Trust Board, there's currently 1 opening available on the Lost Trust Fund Board. However, we did not receive any applications for consideration. The current opening will be included in the next cycle of board and commission appointments. So let's move on to the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve Commission. The McDowell-Sonoran Preserve Commission provides citizen oversight for acquisition, preservation, management, and stewardship of the McDowell Mountain and related Sonoran Desert for the benefit of this and future generations. The terms for Carrie Olson and Jeffrey Smith expire in May. Both are eligible for reappointment. However, only Carrie Olson submitted an application for consideration. There are 2 vacancies and 9 applicants. The applicants are Nicholas Hartman, Pruitt Layton, Stephen Litblau, Carrie Olson, Michael Pomerico, Elizabeth Reich, Ryan Rybasik, Reed Schofield, and Kevin Walsh. And we'll start with Councilwoman Caputi.
Carrie Olson, and I'm not even going to bother trying, but Ryan R. Say that.
No additional.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Michael Pomenico?
Okay. Mayor?
No additional.
No additional. Councilman Graham?
None additional.
Oh, Councilman Durham?
No additional.
Okay. I'm just going a little too fast. All right. Neighborhood Advisory Commission. The Neighborhood Advisory Commission advises and makes recommendations to the City Council on policies, plans, strategies, and programs for the preservation, improvement, and revitalization of Scottsdale's housing neighborhoods. Bridget Schwartz Manock's term expires in May. She is eligible for reappointment, and she has submitted an application for consideration. There is one vacancy, 6 applicants, and the applicants are Lawrence Spear, David Creed, Sandra Dunn, Catherine Irwin, Susan Rogue Adeniak, and Bridget Schwartz Manock. And we'll start with Councilwoman Janik.
Bridget Schwartz Manock.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
No additional?
Mayor?
No additional.
No additional. Councilman Durham.
No additional.
Councilman Graham.
David Creed.
And Councilwoman Caputi.
No additional.
Actually, can I withdraw that? No, that
Sure. Withdrawn.
withdrawn. Normal, I can withdraw that, right? Sorry, Mr. Creed.
That's okay. We'll get him next time.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Parks and Recreation Commission. The Parks and Recreation Commission advises the City Council on the acquisitions of lands and facilities for use as parks or recreation centers, and on the operation, use, care, and maintenance of these parks and recreation areas. Teresa Kim Quayle's term expires in May. She is eligible for reappointment and has submitted an application for consideration. There is 1 vacancy and 16 applicants. The applicants are Jamie Alford, Sandra Barr, Frank Bertone, Riley Casey, Daniel Cheatham, Allison Ford, Tiffany House, Evan Judge, Heather Lynn Moose, Sukura McClawson, Kim Olerhead, Nicole Polensky, Teresa Kim Quayle, Rob Scott, Denise Softner, and George Weinbaum. And with that, we're going to start with Councilwoman Littlefield.
Teresa Kim Quayle?
Mayor?
No additional.
No additional. Councilman Durham?
No additional.
Councilman Graham?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Miss Alford.
And Councilwoman Caputi?
No additional.
Councilwoman Janik?
No additional.
Okay. The Planning Commission. The Planning Commission holds creation of zoning districts, the enforcement of zoning regulations, amendments to all zoning ordinances, and any other planning and zoning use. Terms for Barney Gonzalez and Christian Serena expire in May. Barney Gonzalez is eligible for reappointment and has submitted an application for consideration. Christian Serena is ineligible for reappointment. There are 2 vacancies and 9 applicants. The applicants are Doug Craig, Barney Gonzalez, John Griffin, Ryan Hilbun, Pamela Yakova, Michael Ann Joyner, Cindy Person, Jay Rawson, and Larry Robinson. And we're going to start with the mayor.
Barney Gonzalez, yes, and Michael Joyner.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Pamela Yakova, and no additional.
We have 2. Doug Craig. And no additional.
Councilman Graham?
No additional. Thank you, Barney, for your service. I was going to nominate you, but you're already nominated.
Okay, Councilwoman Caputi?
I have no additional.
Councilwoman Janik?
No additional.
Councilwoman Littlefield?
No additional.
All right. And this concludes our nomination process this evening. Individuals nominated will be contacted by city staff with additional information. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all who applied to serve on a citizen advisory board or commission. Even if you were not nominated, your application will remain on file for 1 year for consideration at a future date if there are additional vacancies. So with that, turning it back to the mayor, and thank you.
I move we adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please record your vote.
That was very efficient.
Going once.
Yeah, you were fast.
That was your last one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Faster because you're going to be second.